Hello, friends of Studio Brûlé. This is Steve Brûlé, and it is coffee time. Welcome to BDB and Dermatology already in the comments system. Always great to see you guys. So today we're going to talk about a couple of items, but the prime thing we're going to get straight into is Black Supremacy. And I'm calling this Chronicles of Black Supremacy, Episode 1, because I have a feeling we're going to have a lot to talk about going forward, because this is a growing issue. There are an explosion of new groups and active groups, and they are promoting racism and hatred of white people, supremacy, and the creation of a new nation within the U.S. They have their own black militias and so on. Hello, Josue and Jello Bendy. I'm going to waste no more time getting to it. There is my VIP patriarchy card, which allows me and authorizes me to comment on all the crazy comings and goings of the insane female feminist bigotry movement, feminist hate movement that has its tentacles around the world in thousands of overpaid and overfunded organizations. Let's get straight to the business of the day today. The reason I got started into this one today is from this tweet that I saw last night from Samantha Marika. I follow her. She's well worth following. She has a lot of insightful tweets and things to bring up related to men's rights, anti-feminism, the crazy, bigoted Democratic Party of the U.S., Democrat Party of the U.S. And thanks to Yellow Bendy for your generous support of Studio Brûlé, who says, definitely after one of those cards. Well, as I mentioned before, I hope I haven't missed anybody who sent in their donations of $10 for one of these cards. Put patriarchy card in the description or email. I have actually started up this new email address. I'm going to write it into the description here. It is patriarchy. Oopsie, I'm not even typing it right here, but I'm going to type it right in here for you. patriarchyhome@gmail.com. So if I happen to miss some of your emails and your PayPal donations for a patriarchy card, do send me a copy of your Patreon receipt to patriarchyhome@gmail.com, and so I won't miss it. I've sent out a number of them already, and thank you everyone for your support. So this tweet says, Terry Crews got canceled for predicting that Black Lives Matter could morph into Black supremacy. And Terry Crews is holding back, in my opinion, but kudos for him for pointing out that this is not only possible, but it is happening today, although he didn't claim it's happening. Today, Samantha continues, Nick Cannon made Terry's prediction come true. And we're going to have a look at this controversy that's surrounded up Nick Cannon, who has since lost his job with a media organization. We'll get into that in a minute. But in the background here, Los Angeles Times says Terry Crews stands his ground after controversial Black supremacy tweet. Let's have a look at what those tweets were. Terry Crews found himself urging against groupthink Monday after a tweet of his that used the phrase Black supremacy sparked a trend-setting backlash on social media. You can't even talk about the truth. You can't put forward ideas in today's cancel culture, all brought to you by the Marxist feminists on university campuses, and they spread to mainstream culture from there. You can't say anything. You can't investigate anything unless it's of the purest ideological purity of feminist groupthink. That's what Terry's referring to there. Reading from the top. Defeating white supremacy without white people creates Black supremacy. Equality is the truth. The America's Got Talent host tweeted Sunday afternoon, like it or not, we are all in this together. You would think that this is a fairly non-controversial, kind of middle-of-the-road centrist tweet, finishing it off especially with, we are all in this together. Congratulations, Terry, for having the courage to speak out the obvious truth. But, okay, here's the actual tweet here itself, copied right off Terry Crews's Twitter page. And then, Black supremacy, Jones said, We represent 13% of the US population, hold no institutional power, gaslight our co-workers. We got 99 problems and your math isn't the only one. Stronger together, he says. Of course, no institutional power. There's no black people who are wealthy, right? We've never had a black president. We didn't have a Condoleezza Rice. We didn't have Colin Powell. We don't have a plethora of well-paid black athletes and black actors. No institutional power. How ignorant of this fellow. Orlando Jones, Black Supremacy. Here is his actual tweet here. And Orlando Jones is quite a well-off man from the benefit of the very culture which he wants to crap on today. All because it is politically correct to crap like that. Doesn't make him right, but he knows darn well he's not going to get punished for saying crap. I'm talking about Jones here. Read his tweet from Orlando Jones. You can burn down entire cities and still have the leaders of those cities apologizing to you. This is a response to Jones's tweet. So let's read it. You can burn down entire cities and still have the leaders of those cities apologizing to you, not to the people whose lives you just ruined, but to you, the looters and arsonists. White people wouldn't be able to do that, so you definitely have institutional power. Let's read on a few more tweets here. Another fellow responded to Orlando Jones. No institutional power, yet a black man has been the leader of the entire country for 8 years. Well, not the past 8 years. This was older. And another one too says, I'm so embarrassed for Terry Crews. How is he talking about black supremacy when we are still dying during the actual protest still actively happening? His wife needs to take his phone. This guy needs to have his brain checked. Dre, Jane, 215. It is black people killing black people in these protests. It is black people rioting and looting. It is black people who are killing and shooting the police with their supporters amongst other races as well. This Black Lives Matter movement is not a welcoming and peaceful movement by any stretch. Let's read on here. After comedian Godfrey stated that black supremacy didn't exist except among racist whites, Crews agreed. Crews. Hang on to your backbone. Then the Brooklyn Nine-Nine actor said he wasn't talking about white people in his original tweet, but rather those he called gatekeepers of blackness within the black community, noting that he had been called out in the past as not being black enough. Yeah. Well, Terry, take that up with Joe Biden. Joe Biden seems to be one of those gatekeepers. When he said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Wow. Anyways, let's read on. Godfrey says, I love you as a friend, Brother Terry, but I disagree with you 100%. No such thing as black supremacy. We just saw a video a few weeks ago of a black supremacy group having white people kiss their feet and claiming that they will enslave all the white people. And that's their decreed from God. No black supremacy group. How stupid do you have to be to write this kind of thing? There's no such thing as black supremacy. When it's in your face, and we're going to see there's hundreds of these organizations. That is a tactic, he says, that racist whites use to counteract our rebellion to their horrific treatment of us. It's called gaslighting. Black pride isn't anti-white. No, it's not anti-white. We didn't have the black BLM leaders and co-founders outright stating that white people are not human beings. What the hell do you call that, Godfrey moron? What do you call that? Look, there's black supremacy, there's white supremacy, and we talked about this before. This is all part of in-group preference, and all races and types of people are susceptible to in-group preference. It is our we can only fight these things if we all recognize the ubiquitousness of this trait in humanity and not give in to it. But people like Godfrey are arguing that they are different because they cannot have supremacy for some reason X, Y, Z. You're not different. And the longer you can continue to insist that you are different because you're black, the longer we're going to persist with dealing with these kinds of racist supremacy groups on the planet. It's hard enough dealing with them without you denying that they exist. Let's read on. I think I missed something I wanted to say there. Our rebellion to their horrific treatment of us. Notice that this horrific treatment is not going on today. They're reaching back into the fairly deep past to justify violence today. This is inherently the problem. And here's Godfrey here. Godfrey complaining of his terrible treatment by the very culture that allowed him to become a multimillionaire worth $3 million. And probably more than half of his fan base is non-black. Maybe not anymore. Not if any of his fan base have any common sense to them. Here's a guy worth $3 million claiming in the culture that it's against him because he's black. I'll tell you, there is an enormous number of white people, me included, who would love to have his $3 million. And all he does is tweet and say some jokes. Not even very good at it. Here he is again. There's his face right there. Godfrey claims he's being maltreated by white people, the white people who likely are responsible for him living the high life as one of the richest people in the U.S., as with $3 million in the bank. That's the kind of people we're dealing with here who say there's no such thing as black supremacy. And therefore they can hate on white people. And they're building this anti-white racism in front of our eyes today. Here's Godfrey here in his Twitter page. Poor guy. Suffering so much. Has to get into his Mercedes-Benz and drive back to his mansion. Been so mistreated, has he? And here is an article in BBC. Notice the date on this. This goes back to July 11th of 2016, 4 full years ago. And the question asked at that time, are U.S. black separatist groups on the rise? And the connection between black separatist groups and black racist groups, black supremacist groups, is almost a 1-to-1. Let's look at this. And notice also, and I found this very interesting, even as back then, the front faces of all of these black separatist groups, these black racist groups, are women, feminist women. And it's no coincidence that Black Lives Matter was created by all feminist women. It is feminism and Marxism that's at play here behind all of it. Let's read from the top. The Nation of Islam was founded in 1930 and is considered the oldest black nationalist group in the U.S. While the group provides social service programs to African American communities, the SPLC and Anti-Defamation League have branded it as a hate group founded in anti-Semitism and racism. There's no black supremacy. What is this? What's wrong with these people? Are they so stupid? Obviously, their wealth doesn't buy them a common sense in their head. In response, and they're saying this is in response to Black Lives Matter, which is nonsense, in response to the bad treatment of black people, which is a fake news. We all know that here, but it is fake news. Legitimate academic studies have repeatedly demonstrated that the police are not targeting black people. In fact, when compared to all aggressive encounters with the police, there are more shootings of unarmed white men than there are of unarmed black men, but nobody will tell this truth. The police in the U.S. are not racist against black people. That is proven for the umpteenth time, just like the pay gap has been disproven. The number of black separatist hate groups notice here, this is in the article at BBC, the number of black separatist hate groups, pretty much synonymous with supremacy groups, has jumped from 113 in 2014 to 180 last year. Last year of this article means 2015. That means it has jumped by about 60-70%, or approximately 70% in 1 year. And that was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, there was an explosion in black supremacy groups in the US. And we've had 5 years of further growth. And if you don't think that the black supremacy group that over the past 6 months haven't gotten increasingly militant and increasingly supremacist, increasingly racist, then you really, really don't belong here. You're not paying attention. This Marxism, I'm going to cut to a point that I was going to make a little bit later, but I'm going to foretell it right now. Marxism, the Marxist movement, took over feminism in the 1960s. We've talked about this quite a lot, and Erin Pizzey has talked about that as well, how they took over her refuge movement and turned feminism itself slowly into a Marxist group, replacing the enemy of capitalism with the elites or the bourgeoisie and so on. We've talked about this many times. But Marxism took over the feminist movement fully in the 1960s and wrote it into the education system from top to bottom, kindergarten to graduate school. They got from there into industry, into governance, which is politics and law enforcement, and into religion. They dominate every pillar of our society. That's Marxism. But what we have been seeing, and what they are worried about over the last decade or two, is that they are worried of feminism losing its oomph, its credibility. It has diluted and expanded so much that nobody really knows what feminism is anymore. And there's millions and millions of different feminisms. And so what do we see them doing? They morphed. They took over the black movement. The Marxist movement marched the feminist movement all the way through all the pillars of our society. And now what they are doing is they're amalgamating into the black movement, and they call themselves Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an amalgam of feminism, Marxism, and black supremacy. It is through and through and through. This, what we're facing today, most importantly, is an attack on individualism, an attack on capitalism. They're not even being secretive about it. They're right out in the open. They're saying we're Marxists and we're going to destroy capitalism. Now, this is going to be a topic I'm going to foretell for tomorrow's session. And we have not identified the political spectrum correctly. People talk about fascism on the right and communism on the left. That is wrong. There's an article in Forbes that I tweeted out yesterday, and I'm going to go through it tomorrow, who rightly and very accurately identifies the political spectrum as being collectivism versus individualism. Both communism and fascism are different forms of collectivism. They sit on the same side of the political spectrum. On the other side of the political spectrum is individualism and capitalism. Both fascism and communism oppress the individual. Capitalism is the method in which individuals can rise and raise themselves up and the people around them up. But even in fascism, the individual is submissive to the government. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's get on with this. I don't want to get too far distracted here. Each of these groups, they're referring to the 180 groups, and keep in mind again that this is 5 years ago. We're way, way further down the line here than we were 5 years ago. Each group carries different beliefs in relation to black power and white oppression. However, many black separatist groups are explicitly anti-white and tend to share a mistrust of government, according to Ms. Bayrich, person they were interviewing there. The group's leader, this is talking about Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, has long espoused anti-Semitism and homophobic messages. The Nation of Islam. In contrast, the Black Lives Matter movement extends beyond the African American community, because Black Lives Matter has amalgamated. First and foremost, Black Lives Matter is a feminist movement. And as a feminist movement, it is a Marxist movement. And the co-founders, the leaders who founded the first Black Lives Matter movement, which is a corporation, by the way, it is a corporation. They outright, openly say that they are Marxists, first and foremost. In one famous quote, one of the leaders said, one of the founders said, "We are trained Marxists." They are trying to bring Marxism through the world, the entire world. What's striking about the Black Lives Matter protest is how multiracial they are, Mr. Carson says. It's probably one of the most multiracial activities going on in the US. That's right, because it is not primarily a black movement. It is a Marxist feminist movement. That's why it is a multiracial. And they are only capitalizing on the deaths of these men who were shot in the line of policing. They shouldn't have been shot, but they weren't shot because they were black. They were shot because they were committing crimes. And they lost in that battle. They shouldn't have been shot. I don't know how many times we can say this, but the police didn't shoot them because they're black. They shot them because they were committing crimes. In the most recent case, I forget where this was now. It will come to me later. I think we talked about it a day or two ago. In the most recent case, the guy pulled a gun, started firing on the police, and the police fired back. And what do Black Lives Matter say? They're looking for justice for this guy, so-called justice. He got justice. He was firing at the police. The police shot back in self-defense, rightfully so. And the kid lost his life. What's the moral of the story? It has nothing to do with being black. It has everything to do with don't pull a gun and shoot at police. Well, especially while they're conducting their duties, but not at any time. In fact, don't pull a gun and shoot at anybody. That's just frickin' stupid. How many brain cells do you need to know that it's stupid to pull a gun and shoot at police? That it's stupid to do that. Incredible. And here's Nick Cannon. And this is an article about Nick Cannon's behavior in this most recent episode. Nick Cannon, racist rant. White people are the true savages, closer to animals. And you know something? And here's the thing. First of all, I can't even imagine a prominent white person with power, with a podium to speak from, saying anything remotely like this. It doesn't happen. It does not happen today. And I don't want to go talking about 100 years ago, because 100 years ago is a different world. We're talking about today. Nobody stands up and says these things. But this guy actually said white people are the true savages, closer to animals. Exactly like the Black Lives Matter leader who said that white people are not human. And we're going to see some more comparisons here, direct comparisons. And they're trying to say he's not for a white supremacist. He's not a black supremacist. He's not a racist. He is, fully, right to the core. And he's telling you to his face. He's showing his racism right out there. Let's read this quote. On the podcast episode in question, Cannon spoke with well-documented anti-Semite Richard Griffin and praised the hateful Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who has been labeled by both Anti-Defamation League and Southern Poverty Law Center as an anti-Semitic and anti-gay, and racist, by the way, which means he's racist against white people, and probably Chinese too, because he's a black supremacist. That's what it means when you're a black supremacist. All other people are considered beneath you. He's a black supremacist. Nevertheless, the master singer host believes Farrakhan is a positive, powerful and uplifting man who has been demonized. Oh, the poor guy. Grandmaster KKK, would you say the same thing about him? You're a racist, Cannon. And these people are all drawing strength from the feminist claim that in order to be a racist, you have to have some kind of institutional power. No, you do not. You're a racist if you believe other races are beneath you and you are above them. That's what racism is. Cannon, during his rant, said white people who have less melanin in their skin have a lack of compassion, are closer to animals, and are the true savages because they don't have, quote, soul. Wow. This is happening today across a lot of well-paid, successful Black people. This is Black Lives Matter speaking here. It is Black Lives Matter speaking. That Uzra Kogali said the very same thing. And she argued, she didn't just tweet out an offhand tweet, she argued that the lack of melanin in that our genetic incapability to produce the amount of melanin they have accounted for this. There's no science behind this, but this is the racism. It is pure, heartfelt racism. This is Black supremacy rising. Black Lives Matter is giving it legitimacy. It's false legitimacy because even Black Lives Matter's reason for existence is a fraud. The Black men they used to promote their organization were killed for committing crimes. They didn't deserve to die, but they didn't die because they were Black. They died because they were committing crimes, and the police overstepped their bounds. There's no way to argue that there isn't Black supremacy rising in the Western culture today. It's rising with great strength. Let's read on. When you have a person who has a lack of pigment, this is Cannon speaking here. When you have a person who has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know they will be annihilated, therefore they know that however they got the power, they have a lack of compassion. Melanin comes with compassion. Where do they get these racist, bigoted ideas from? You just pull this right out of his ass. There goes my monetization. But that's what he did. He pulled this right out of his ass. This is pure hatred, racism, bigotry, and Black supremacy on display today. Let's read on. When they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, they didn't have the power of the sun. I don't know what drugs this guy is on. The sun started to deteriorate them. So they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of deficiency. So therefore, the only way they can act is evil. Wow. There's something truly wrong with the education system in the US, that this kind of incredibly stupid fantasy can take root in an adult mind. Just read it over again on your own there later if you want to. This is incredible. The links, by the way, are in the descriptions of the video. Let's read from the top. There's lots of this material. I mean, you can find the stupidity they're advertising about themselves everywhere. They have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and fight in order to survive. So these people who didn't have what we have, he's talking about the melanin, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people. They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough torrential environments. So they're acting like as animals. So they're the ones closer to animals. How many times does he have to press this through? His racism, his bigotry, his hatred, his black supremacy can't be oppressed. It's burning in him. They're the one that are actually the true savages. Savages. Wow. I mean, what more can be said? I mean, how can he walk such things back? It's impossible to walk those back. He's a black supremacist, racist bigot. There's no way around it. He believes this to his core. An apology would do nothing at this point. It would only prove that he wants his job back. But that's what he truly believes. And this is a man of about 50 years old. He's had an entire lifetime to figure out how the world works. And he's decided to be a black supremacist. Let's read on. The TV personality also previously hosted Nation of Islam representative Tony Muhammad on his, quote, academic podcast. At the time, Muhammad told Cannon, "We want Caucasians and this government to give us a separate state or territory like you did Israel." And I have to say, folks, I'm not entirely against this. I'm not entirely against it. Now, I wouldn't want to force anybody to take them up on their crazy ass bigotry, black supremacist country. I wouldn't kick any sane black people, Chinese people, or Native Americans out of any country. You stay if you want, but if you want to go to that, if we can create them their own black supremacist country, send them over there. I'll tell you this, you're not coming back. We should prohibit anybody from coming back. You want to go over there, you're gone. Stay there. And what I think the U.S. could do, and this is probably a good idea, buy some land off of an African country. There's lots of unused land over there, perfectly good land. Buy it. Turn it into its own state. And send them all over there. Say, you've got a year. Everybody who wants to be a black supremacist, go on over there. Do all your supremacy over there. We don't need you here. We don't want you here. We don't want racists, bigots, and supremacists in the West. And Black Lives Matter, Nation of Islam, and this guy, Cannon, is one of them. He's a racist bigot. We don't want him in the free world. So yeah, send them over and give all of his followers that country free, no charge. Charge it to the taxpayers. And you got 1 year. You go over there, you make your decision, but you're not coming back. You want to be a supremacist? Go be a supremacist over in your own little peon country. Let's read on here. This is another article about this, and Nick Cannon has had his ties cut with Viacom CBS over alleged, it's all over the internet. I mean, they're not going to take this to court. It's not alleged hateful speech. It's open. Read it. How can anyone not see it as hateful, as racist, as bigoted, as black supremacist, and anti-Semitic remarks on the podcast? And this came out today, this morning at 7:24 a.m. Let's read a couple of quotes from this one. In another part of the discussion, Cannon, 39, oh, well, he looks older than 39. I thought he was 50. But anyways, Cannon, 39, claimed that people who lack melanin suffer a little less, and that those without dark skin have a, quote, deficiency, which forces them to live in fear and act out with violence. Wow. What an asshole this guy is. What a complete idiot. Here he says, and this is from that same article, they had to be savages, he said, clarifying that he was referring to Jewish people, white people, Europeans, and others. How is this not racist, Cannon? Get your head out of your frickin' ass. You racist bigot. You black supremacist. It is what you are. You're not going to walk that back. Now, this is a few of the Twitter responses. Twitter opinions on this. And this is the same tweet that got me started on this. Terry Crews got canceled for predicting that Black Lives Matter and could morph into black supremacy, which it is and has. Today, Nick Cannon's made Terry's prediction come true. No, well, it's been true long before. Terry's wasn't a prediction. Terry's was just an acknowledgement of reality. In fact, there is black supremacy in the U.S. We saw it in 2015. There was 180 groups. Before that, there was 114 groups. These groups go back almost 100 years, perhaps more. There's black supremacy. The Nation of Islam, in the 1930s it started. That's over 80 years ago. Black supremacy is a real thing. Let's read on. And this woman fired back. Black people can't be supremacist. Oh, you naive little twat. Black people can't be supremacist. We don't hold the systemic power to become supremacist in this country. Only white people can be supremacist. Hence, black supremacy isn't a thing because we are a minority, not a majority. Oh, how many times do we have to go through the same feminist stupidity? This is thought that comes from feminism. And feminism, unfortunately, has set the tone for all of this stuff we see in our culture today. They ramrodded their Marxist idiocy right through the education system. They dominate the education system and all the pillars of society. It is feminism that made it okay to be racist against white people. It is feminism that has legitimized and enabled black supremacy. It is feminism. Now we have to suffer these idiotic morons. And here, this guy here. It's not because you're a minority that it ain't a thing. It's because you're powerless. Blacks don't control any system of power. Oh, really? Again with that. So they can't dominate anyone, even if they wanted to. That's it. This is his rationale for being a racist bigot and a black supremacist. These people are rationalizing their point to try and make it publicly acceptable to promote racism, bigotry, black supremacy. And Barack Obama was never a president, right? We talked about this already. So there's so many very powerful black people in the US, all made possible by the fact that there is no white supremacy with power in the West. There isn't. Not any white supremacist group in the West has any amount of power whatsoever. White supremacy has no leverage over the West. There may be small little groups gathering together in their little clubhouses. I don't know where, I don't know who they are, but they are totally, completely insignificant and powerless. It's as simple as that. And these dingbats here, again, this is evidence of how bad the education system is. The education system dominated by feminists needs to be scrapped. I keep saying this over and over again. Fire every last one of them. Make them reapply for their jobs. And if anybody thinks this is too ridiculous of a thing to even try, look, they shut down every economy in the world in the blink of an eye. Every one of them. They shut down all the air travel. Shutting down the education system from kindergarten to university is much easier than doing that. Fire them all. And don't rehire anybody who's been part of this Marxist feminist lying crap. They all have to justify their rehire. And I'm just going to pause here for a moment and recognize Oki MGTOW. Thank you for your support of Studio Brûlé, Oki. Why aren't they trying to get more people of color in office? Well, I think they are, but, you know, it's a slow process. I don't know if anybody's ever examined the representation. Not that it matters. I'm of the opinion that it doesn't matter one bit what color, gender you are. If we're not hiring and promoting and voting in people on the basis of their skill, their merit, then we're doing the wrong thing. We're hiring them on identitarian manner, and that is wrong. That will always lead us straight back to where we are today. And just pausing to acknowledge somebody named UK. First time I've seen you in here. Thank you so much for your support of Studio Brule. And if you have a comment, please include it, and I'll read it out here for you. So let's carry on with the material here today. Getting past some of these stupid brain-dead idiots. And then Tim says, by that logic, apartheid was okay. He's talking about the being a minority. Since white South Africans were a minority, and that's a good point, Tim. Google Idi Amin or Robert Mugabe. All races have racist people. We should strive to treat others how we would want to be treated. Yes, that's a Christian concept, in fact. And many of these people, these black supremacists, you know what? Some of them claim to be of Islamic faith, and some of them claim to be of Christian faith. But there's nothing truer than the fact that all races, all people, all groups have capacity for racism within them. And here, another, this is what this twat replied back. She got nothing to say. She just wanted to throw out the accusation that white people are devils, proving the point that black supremacy is on the rise, and she's one of them. Little got it bad because I'm brown. Oh, you poor dear. It's not because you're brown. It's because you're lazy ass. You don't want to work for it if you got it bad. That's what it is. Or you're just cry bullying. LOL, she says. You're proving his point with white people being devils. No, you're proving our point that you're a black supremacist, a racist, and a bigot. Go out and get a job or start a business or something. That's the West gives you that right and empowers you to do it. And here we go again. Yes, black supremacy is a thing, but a very minuscule problem. White supremacy, however, is the biggest problem. I don't think BLM is tiring or will turn into about black supremacy. It's a bit of a convoluted sentence, but no, you moron. As I just said, there is no white supremacist group in the world that has any significant power or influence in world events. There just is not. There's no way to convince these mental midgets of this because they're bigots. They're bigots. They want to pretend that white supremacy is the biggest problem that we're facing so that they can justify their hatred of white people. You're a black supremacist, you're a racist, and you're a bigot. Let's carry on. Another guy here. Oh, poor guy. No such thing as black supremacy, he says. No such thing as reverse racism. Oh, in other words, I can be as racist as I want because I'm black. That's what he's saying. You're an idiot, moron. No such thing as reverse racism. Our brother Nick Cannon spoke absolute truth about the history of white people behavior. Only a savage can steal a race of people and make them slaves. That's savage behavior. Well, have a look at Africa when you wake up from your little anti-white racist fantasy. There is no shortage of savagery on display in history and today. Nowhere more so than in Africa. Look at Rwanda if you want an epic example of savagery. Look at Boko Haram if you want an epic example of savagery. Or Idi Amin. No. You know what? This is just another proof that we need to scrap the education system from kindergarten to grad school. Because morons like this are coming out. They have absolutely no clue of anything but how to order McDonald's French fries. That's the only thing they're learning. Let's read on. Pay attention to this Nick Cannon incident. Black people, we need to own our platforms. Imagine not even BET, a black network, couldn't even pick him up now because they are one not black owned under the Viacom umbrella. Black supremacy speaking right there, folks. She's not concerned about the racism from Nick Cannon. She's not concerned about the hatred and the bigotry and the black supremacy. What she's concerned about is not being allowed to express her own black supremacy, her racism, her bigotry, and her hatred. This is why she wants her own network. And she thinks that that a black person, because you're black, can start up a network in the West and start promoting racist, bigoted, hateful supremacy ideals, and it's just going to be hunky-dory. They've all got their heads right so far up their asses because they've never been challenged on the stupidity they've been taught in the education system from kindergarten to grad school by feminists, Marxist feminists who dominate the entire education system. Here we go again. White people hate being called out on their shit and their history. Nick Cannon said what he said. He did say what he said. And that's why he's fired where he belongs. White people are mad at Nick Cannon like they haven't said the same thing about black and brown people. They haven't whitewashed Jesus. I don't know about that. They haven't colonized the world. They haven't shoved Eurocentric beauty standards down our throats. Listen to the stupidity of this. It just never ends. You want to cancel something, cancel there. Eurocentric beauty standards. Do you know the top model just recently was a deeply black woman out of Africa? I forget her name, but she's praised for the deep blackness of her skin in this very beauty industry. Nobody's shoved any Eurocentric beauty standards down anybody's throat. Nobody can do that. Everybody decides what they believe is beautiful. I know guys that only love to see skinny women. Other guys, big boobed women. Other guys, big butt women. Other guys, enormously fat women. And they think they're beautiful. Don't give me this crap that your beauty standards were forced down your throat. What are you, like 13 months old? 16 months old? Brain dead? Are you a complete idiot moron that you just hear, oh, this is the beauty standard, I'm going to accept that. Yep, that's what I want. Didn't happen to me. Why did it happen to you? White people are mad at Nick Cannon like they said the same thing before. Maybe 200 years ago, this kind of stuff was said, but these people are just using old history to justify present crimes. Present crimes. And if we're going to go down that route, every last group on this planet Earth has reason to hate every other group on this planet Earth. That's where this reasoning leads. Everyone was a victim, and every group was a villain, all throughout history, at different periods of times. It is only a matter of who was up on top and when. And if you're going to use history to justify your hatred, bigotry, and violence today, then you are the hater, the bigot, the racist, and the supremacist today. Okay, stance grounded. You're an idiot again. Colonized the world. Anyways, it's self-evident stupidity on display here. And let's read this one. I love seeing black community support Nick Cannon. Now is not the time to fold. We need to remain uncompromising and upholding the truth. There's a large, and this is the message we have to understand here, folks. It's not all black people. There are a lot of black people like Terry Crews who reject this stuff straight out. In fact, anyone who doesn't reject this stuff is not worthy of your time of day as a friendship. Kick them out of your life altogether. Slam that door and put every lock you can on it, because they are bigots, racists, haters, and they will be violent, and they will destroy your life if they can get a chance to. They are the bigots of our day. And there are a lot of them. It is growing. And the reason it's growing is because of this long 50 years of feminists acclimating the culture to accept hatred of white people, to accept these ideas that if you're a minority, you can't be racist. You need institutional power. And then go on to ignore the fact that a black man was president for 8 years. That's as high of institutional power that you can get in the US. And still, they ignore that and still claim that black people have no institutional power, therefore they can't be racist, Therefore, they can't be supremacist. This is the idiocy that is growing in our world today. Now, just to finish up here on this topic, here, where is this thing? Here's what's going on in London. BLM activist. This was, I think this is in the Daily Mirror or something. Anyways, the link's in the description. Watch the video, they say. Or it might be Breitbart. BLM activist calls for revolution in the UK, saying police is no different from the KKK. They had to quote that because it's sick, right? The police is no different from KKK. Well, not in the minds of a mental idiot who was trained in the education system by idiotic Marxist feminists. Certainly, there's no question that you don't believe there's a difference, but you're a moron. And if the police were the KKK, you wouldn't be standing out there pumping your fist up in between your soy latte and your salon appointment. This woman is a fraud. She's only preaching out there because she knows she's on the politically correct side. She knows she has the support of the entire culture. She would fold like wet toilet paper the minute any violence that she encourages starts. She'd be crying her way back home looking for protection from those same police that she just criticized. Read from the top here from that article. At a Black Lives Matter protest in London, an activist called for a revolution in the UK, demanding the establishment of a black militia to stand up to racism, which she claims thrives on capitalism. They don't even know capitalism and individualism is. It is virtually the opposite of racism. Capitalism doesn't care if you're black or Chinese or Native American or white. Capitalism is a process by which you can capitalize your project and make your life better for yourself. It is individualism. These people don't have one common sense brain cell in their heads. Reading from the top. In a Breitbart London exclusive video, one of the speakers of the rally, a black woman dressed in a paramilitary-style garb, is seen leading chants of "Take it to the streets, fuck the police," and "No justice, no peace." The same old chants. And again, she's only chanting this stuff and putting on her fashionable military garb for politically correct fashion statement. She's a fraud. The far left speaker said that she was not scared of no terrorist. Oh, failure of the education system is horrible. She's not scared of no terrorist group, but added that the police is no different from the KKK. They stand around and protect statues and buildings instead of people. No, they protect people too, moron, but they also protect property. And you want the police to stand aside while the violent, destructive bigots destroy property and beat white people unconscious and kill babies. They've been shooting children in the street in the US. Why are you not getting up and shouting and saying, "Hey, police, catch those thugs who shot those kids"? They're not saying that. Why are you not saying we need the police to stop these shooting of kids? No. I have zero respect for Black Lives Matter because it's a fraudulent movement. Reading from the top. Addressing the accusations of anti-Semitism levied at the Black Lives Matter UK organization, the speaker said that it is not anti-Semitic to say "Free Palestine," she said. "Don't let no Jewish man create a way to be unheard, to make you unheard. Silence is violence." Listen to that. Silence is violence. In other words, you have no individual rights. This is communism, and fascism is equal. In fascism, the individual must enforce the state and squeal on anyone who's against the fascist state or speaks about it. Silence is violence. That is what it means. These are fascist communists, all on the same side of the political spectrum. They are collectivists and they squash individuality. If we keep silent, we are also part of that oppression. No, you're not. The leftist radical went on to pronounce that British value does not exist because they took his value from all around. Go to school, girl. You don't belong on the street, but you're a black supremacist, racist bigot. That's what you are. She concluded by pronouncing there is one solution, revolution. So she wants a revolution. Good luck with that. We'll see how far wet toilet paper gets in the revolution. Reading from the top. This is about all-out Marxism. It's about the destruction of capitalism. It's about getting rid of the nation state as we know it. Of course, it's about defunding the police, said the Brexit Party leader. That fellow there, I forget his name now. But he's right. And they are saying it themselves. Those very words could have come out of BLM themselves' mouths, right out of the leaders and founders' mouths. It's about Marxism. It's about the destruction of capitalism. It's about getting rid of the nation state. It's about full-on collectivism and no individual rights. This is why the presumption of innocence is under attack in Canada and in the US. And this is why freedom of speech is under attack by these very same people. Silence is violence, is compelled speech. That's not freedom of speech. It's compelled speech. It's what Jordan Peterson warned about. These people want to destroy individual rights. And here they are, fist pumping as if they're all powerful people, but really this is the front group. These are the soy latte, get your nails done after promoting revolution kind of groups. The bad work are behind the scenes, the militias, the black militias that are growing, the Nation of Islam's group, and all of those other supremacy groups who are arming and are training. This little cutesy pie here who's going off to the salon to get her nail done when she finished fist pumping, she's nothing. She's not going to put herself on the line. She's just going to be out there being the public face of it all. But this is black supremacy in our culture right now, promoting racism, promoting hatred, promoting violence, promoting the destruction of capitalism, the end of individual rights. It's Marxism through to the core. This is one of the biggest threats in front of us today. So folks, that's all I have for today. I had another section, but it's going to be too much long. I'm going to move the next topic to tomorrow's session. So thank you so much for joining me on Coffee with Steve today. And as I like to remind people, do something you love every single day. Things are going to get worse in this culture. And we need to keep in mind that we need to enjoy and live our lives fully in a fully fulfilled manner, so that at the end of our lives we are contented, in spite of being surrounded by enemies who hate us, who advocate our deaths, the black supremacists, the racists, the bigoted feminists, the Marxists. We still need to do what we love to do in life and end with the eye of ending your life contented and satisfied that you fully lived your life. So do it today and every day, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Ciao.